Hi, my name's Lee, and I've been wanting to do this video for a long time. I built my first computer about 8 years ago. So in 2012, my father-in-law encouraged me to kind of go under his wing and learn how to build a computer. I had been really psyched to do it. I'd been wanting to build my custom computer. UV lights were the thing. Everything was glowing in the dark inside these computers, and I was excited. I wanted to do it. What I was not ready for was how many components and all the vital information you need to know when doing a computer. It can become very overwhelming. The kind of person I am, I like to do research. I like to learn all the ins and outs about something so that I know how best to do it. Whether it's YouTube, whether it was Google or Bing or Yahoo, any browser, it doesn't matter. I was researching using those components, and I found a lot of experts, some great experts that know so much about computers and how to build, but they were intimidating. They definitely caught me off guard, using terminology I had never heard of, speaking about components that I had never heard of, and putting it together in such a way that I felt like I should not be doing this. That was the thing that caught me off guard the most. Had my father-in-law not been there to help guide me through the process, I would have been too intimidated to have done it. So the reason for this video is to be able to go through all of these components and help people like you. People who want to build a custom computer as a hobby, as a passion, as something to have fun with. Or say you're using it for work and you need a powerful computer and you want to save a few extra dollars by putting it together yourself. That's what this video is about. I don't want to be the overwhelming person who intimidates you into not building the computer of your dreams. I instead want to encourage you. I want to help you be able to create that dream machine, if you will. And there's no better way to do it than to get in there with your hands and start experiencing it yourself. This video, what I'm going to be doing is going through each item that you would need to build a computer. But instead of overwhelming you with all the information and all the specs, I'm just gonna tell you like it is. Come down to earth and speak to you the way I would want to have been spoken to whenever I was first trying to learn. I just want to know what each item is, and I want to know its purpose in plugging into the computer, and what do I need to look for to make sure they're compatible? Those are the questions I intend to answer. This video, we will be breaking down each item, a box reveal, if you will, and in my opinion, explaining to you why I chose it for my custom build. So, without further ado, let's get started. This episode will be one of 3. The first one, as mentioned, box reveal. The second one will be putting the computer together. And the last one will be downloading the operating system and making sure it all runs. So stay tuned for future episodes, subscribe if you'd like, and let's get started. For our first item, I'd like to go over the Asus motherboard that I purchased. Now, I chose this because it had good ratings. I chose it for the colors. I chose it because it is Asus. It is a Class A. It does have space allowing for me to hook up graphics cards, which is your PCI slots. This goes hand in hand with the processor chip that you purchase. When looking at the back side, on the specs, make sure that your chip, the size matches the motherboard chipset size. So I look here into CPU and it says socket 1151 for 9th and 8th gen Intel Core processors. Well, I have a 9th gen i7, so I'm good to go. It is an 1151 socket size, which is perfect. You want to make sure they match up and they're compatible. Your other processor chips out there, Ryzen, and then your older ones and even the newer ones, the 9th gen, there is the possibility that the socket size might be different. So make sure when you're choosing a motherboard, you choose one that matches the Intel processor chip that you want. A motherboard, as I'm opening this, you'll get to see, this is what it comes with. You'll see here there's this sheet over it. This is meant to protect from static discharge as well as dust. The static discharge, what that means is if you're running around in your socks on carpet in a dry day and you go and touch a piece of metal, you're going to get zapped. Well, if you touch any computer component and it zaps, you may have just fried your motherboard or ruined the processor chip, or the graphics card no longer usable, and you don't want that. So there are measurements whenever you're building a computer, and I'll go over that in my next episode. But for now, what I'm going to do is I've washed my hands. I'm going to take apart each item and I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like just briefly. Inside the box, there's also, it looks like a manual. There's a disc in there. There's also another, looks like a bracket for a fan, a cooling fan. It's an optional piece. And then on this side, we've got some SATA cables. Some more SATA cables. These are what you typically hook up to your disk drives and your hard drives. And then we have some kind of bridge. This is either a bridge for your graphics cards. It says SLI HB bridge. Pretty sure that's what it is. It's for your graphics cards. So this piece is for the case. Whenever you are hooking up the case to the motherboard, if you have like USB ports, things like that, this piece will make sure that you are taken care of for all those USB components connecting to your motherboard. Then you have this right here. This is simply a plate that goes on the back. Some cases you won't even need this plate, but for some others you will need this plate. It helps it look clean in the back. Everything connects together. This is where like the HDMI port, the USB ports that are on the back of the computer. It's strictly just visual. It's a curb appeal for the backside. This can sometimes be intimidating just taking a look at that right there. This is the Asus motherboard, and just for those who are kind of curious what it looks like without that plate, that's right there. So where you would put your processor chip goes right here. This is where your RAM cards go. I'm going to be putting my graphics card in one of these, and I'm going to be putting my streaming card on one of these. And I have a third one right here that I won't be using for what I'm going to be doing, but it is an option. Some SATA ports right there. This is essentially like the body of a computer. So if you had to visualize the computer as a human body, this is the body, okay? Your processor would be the brain, your graphics cards would be like the eyes, you know, the RAM is kind of like your short-term memory, the hard drives are like your long-term memory, things like that. You can't do certain functions without certain aspects, and in a computer's case, it might not even turn on if something's missing. Put in the comments if you have any experience with these motherboards, if you like them, if there's anything to look out for. I'd love to hear it, as well as the other viewers. It's important to make sure that we are helping people whenever we post things on here, and I want to make sure I'm helping future hobbyists with this process. So I explained why I chose this motherboard. If you have anything against it, if there's something else you prefer and why, go ahead and put it in the comment below. Moving on to the next one, we've got the processor chip. Now, as I mentioned, the motherboard has to match up with the processor with the socket size. On this, you will see it says i7-9700K. That is the series, so it's a 9th gen, but the LGA1151 is the socket size. So make sure your motherboard supports the generation and supports the socket size, and you should be good. Intel, that's how they label them. Ryzen has a different type of processor size measurement. They are trying to be completely different from Intel. They are also more affordable. Being such, I chose this particular processor because when I did my research based on what I do, which is Adobe Creative Suite, Microsoft Office, they're both heavily used, and I'm a casual gamer, and I do a lot of audio recordings, things like that. I sing. Those kind of aspects, Intel processors are well-rounded. So when I looked at the ratings, looked at where their faults are and where their strengths are between Intel and Ryzen, Ryzen had some issues where Intel excelled based on my needs. So looking at the processor, I currently have an i7 on my older computer, but it's a 3rd generation. This one being the 9th, it has more cores, and along with that, it has more getup. I don't know how long i7 is going to continue going. With them hitting 9th gen, it's only a matter of time before i7 is no longer used. i9 becomes the new normal, and then who knows, maybe a 10 will show up somewhere. It'll probably say iX or something like that. So upon opening it, it's plain and simple. There's a box holding the chip, and there's instructions. The chip, let's see here, is very well protected. And this right here is the chip. That's all there is to it. That is $300 for a 1" by 1" size socket. It's money well spent in my opinion for this. But you know, like I said, Ryzen is a more affordable chip. It's meant for gamers and streamers in my opinion. But that right there is the brain to the entire computer, put simply. There are some processor chips you can purchase that come with a cooling fan. You do need one. For any computer you're putting together, you're going to want one on your processor. You have choices. You have fans, and then you have liquid cooling. Liquid cooling is the fad right now. I don't overclock my computer, so I don't need the extra cooling effect that liquid cooling does, that the reservoirs for the liquid cooling does. Now, don't get me wrong, I think liquid cooling looks awesome. I think it holds its benefits. I plan to do custom liquid cooling down the road, but for those who don't know, custom liquid cooling for your processor chip and for the graphics card together. Get a little reservoir tank, you put it's a custom hard tubes for the liquid. We're talking $1,000. $1,000 right now just for that. I could spend about $250 on a built-in liquid cooling. I have a cooling fan that exists right now in my current build, and whenever I retire my build and use my new one, I'm going to take that cooling fan from it and put it into mine. I like it that much. It's called FrioOCK, OCK. It's made by Thermaltake. It is a dual fan, intake and outtake cooling unit for the processor chip. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it had such great ratings. I will eventually go liquid cooling, but for this build in the next episode, you'll see I will be using a dual fan cooling device for my processor chip. Going from that, this Core i7 did not come with a cooling fan. But so you're aware, there are options out there. A lot of Intel processor chips you can actually buy with a cooling fan. It's a stock model, it definitely takes care of it. If you intend on overclocking your processor chip, your computer, to run at max speeds and qualities and things like that, first of all, it shortens the life of your computer. But if you intend to do that, you're going to want a more powerful cooling device than what Intel provides in those boxed purchases. The choice is yours. The difference in price is about 30 to 50 bucks. I chose in this particular model, like I said, I'm going to keep my cooling fan I have. I didn't want to spend the money on one I can't use. So that is the i7 Core 9th generation processor. Next, we'll be moving into the graphics card, or as I said earlier, the eyes of the computer. So as you see right here, we have a Strix gaming graphics card, Radeon RX 580. It is partnered with Asus. So as you noticed earlier, we had the Asus motherboard, this being compatible with it. I did do a lot of research and I found a lot of good ratings on this particular model. My computer is big enough on the case to support 3 fans. So that was another reason why I chose it. It does have the Aura Sync, which is a third reason why I chose it. And honestly, I love the colors. I love the brand. Asus is great. I've usually had Radeon graphics cards before. And like I said, great ratings. It is an 8 gig graphics card, which is a lot of strength. And the last reason why I chose this graphics card is because it is compatible with virtual Oculus, those Oculus devices. So if I wanted to do any 3D gaming, I can actually use this graphics card. It supports it and allows me to do that when streaming in the future. So product specifications, it breaks down what it is. You want to make sure that your motherboard can support it. It's PCI slot, so it supports it. It is a current model. The motherboard and the graphics card are around the same age, so they're compatible with each other. They have the Aura technology, both of them, so the lighting is compatible for controls. And I've heard a lot of great things when people were looking at all the different products I had together. I had one person, I won't forget it, and I'm actually considering it. I had one person who explained to me that the Intel processor chip that I chose might have some issues responding and operating with the graphics card. So I will keep that in mind, and during my build, if I have any issues, I know exactly who was right and all the many people who were wrong. But I'm gonna take my chances. I heard a lot of good things. I want to use this. I'm hoping it works. I hope there's no issues. We will find out, and hopefully I can get my money back if there's any issues. So we got that. But let's go ahead and open this sucker up so y'all can see what it looks like. And we got foam. Woo, foam. And pretty sure this is just an instruction manual. Yeah, speed setup and process for the graphics card. Now the good news is when you install this, your power's off, and when you first plug it in and turn everything on afterwards, it immediately starts up and recognizes it. Your computer should recognize your graphics card. So once that happens and everything's on, then you can download the actual drive to operate all the special functions and maximize potential for the graphics card. But that's really all there is to it. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Let's see, we've got some Velcro for cable management, some branding efforts from Republic of Gamers. And then we've got the graphics card right here. Now, like I said, this is a 3-fan, so it is very large, as you can see right here. I want to keep that dust cover nice and close, but I want y'all to be able to see it. Now, there are LED lights along each of these parts right here that you can control the color of choice. And then on the back side, this right here lights up as well. And there's a cover here that looks like it can be removed. It's got a bunch of bubbles on it. I don't know if the camera catches it or not yet. And then right here is the power source. So we know that the power supply I purchased will be able to connect to that. And right here is the cover. It's protecting the PCI slot right there. And we know that my motherboard supports PCI, and we're good to go with that. So just make sure that your motherboard has a PCI slot available for your graphics card, and make sure that your case is large enough to be able to support the size of this. There are 2-fan, they're just a little bit shorter. There are 2-fan models that are like 4 gig and things like that. So keep in mind when you're building your computer, be aware of the size, make sure it's compatible with the motherboard, and make sure it does all the things that you would like it to do. Like the lighting, for instance, which is just my personal opinion. I wanted the lights. Some people, they don't care what the inside of their case looks like, they just want it to run pretty. And that works too. Mine's gonna be mounted on a wall. And so as a result, I want to make sure that it looks good just as much as it runs good. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we've gone over the body, we've gone over the brain, we've gone over the eyes of the body of the computer. Now it's time to go over the heart. Power supply, it is what provides the blood to the whole system. If it's not strong enough, you're not going to get enough power, you're going to have some problems. So it does depend on what you're using your computer for. So when you're thinking about components, make sure you know what you're using it for. a couple things that I looked at when I chose this. First of all, I looked at ratings. Secondly, I looked for the brands. Corsair and Thermaltake are well known. They've been around a while, so that's another reason why I chose Thermaltake. I looked for the 80+ gold symbol. Make sure that's on there. Here's why. I currently have a Corsair. I have a Corsair 800 watt, and it's got some buggy issues. It is not rated at 80+ gold. That right there is probably the problem. It has not cost me any hardware issues. I haven't lost money in the process, but sometimes on startup, it doesn't get enough power to the unit, turns itself off, and tries to turn on again. Trying to avoid that in the future. So 80+ gold guarantees that it's going to have the right power on startup. I chose RGB because I want to make sure that this thing looks pretty. So it's got color controls. I also made sure that with Thermaltake RGB that it is compatible with Aura 850 watt, because I do a lot of video editing, I do a lot of streaming, I do a lot of audio editing, things like that. I'm using a lot of power, I'm using a lot of tools and software. I want to make sure that 850 watts, that's going to get the job done. There are more serious gamers out there that use 2 or 3 graphics cards. They have 6 monitors hooked up. Those guys are running probably 1,000 watts, maybe 1,200. If you just use your computer to use Microsoft, browse the internet, watch YouTube once in a while, you can get away with a 600 or 500 watt. Be aware when you're making choices on your product, that wattage is based on how much power you intend to use. 80+, that guarantees you're going to get that power on startup. Now, other things that I chose when I looked at this, I looked right here. Are you looking at the side? You know, it's explaining. It says Smart Zero Fan. It's quiet. Low ripple noise. Again, it's quiet. Then we're looking at fully modular. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Corsair, the one that I have right now, is not modular at all. All the cables come out the back end, and you don't get a choice on which ones you need and don't need. They're gonna be there. So I've got to hide them in my case. I don't have a way to just cut them off. I don't know if you can see it, but right here, there's no cables connected to it. The cables come with it, and you connect them if you need them. Thank you. Thank you. That right there, that's a winner, because I only need 1 graphics card. I need 1 cable for the motherboard, and I might need a couple cables for, say, the 1 hard drive I've got, and maybe a cooling fan. That's it. That's all I need. So let's open this sucker up. Got the instructions. Here, this right here is a bag full of all the cables that you can choose from on whether or not you need them or not. There's quite a few in here. They're all black. There is this great ability where I actually have seen on Amazon that you can go online and you can purchase your color choice. So if you don't want black cables, you can choose orange, you can choose green, you can choose blue, and get the cables you need to make them look the way you want them to look. Just make sure they're the same cables. They are power supply cables for your computer, and you're good to go. Oh, look at that. They wrapped it up all nice and pretty. Thermaltake brand right there. If y'all can see that. And then let's open it up. Oh, there it is. So we've got the power supply right here. This is great. This is beautiful. We've got RGB lighting controls, smart fan, you can turn it on and off, and obviously the on and off button right there. This is covering the plug that you plug into the wall. So in case you don't know, this right here powers the entire computer. So this plugs into the wall, and that's your plug for the computer to be turned on and off. On the top, you can't see it now, but when it's plugged in, you're gonna have all the colors illuminating out of here, and I get to choose which color I want. I will probably go green. I really have a thing for green. And then, this is why I say fully modular. You choose the cables you want to plug in. Fully modular. So, there you go. Dumbing it down for you. Make sure it's easy. I don't want to confuse you. I don't want to overwhelm you. Just saying that's all it is to it. Next, I want to go over hard drives. So I chose two for mine. I chose a NVMe PCI M.2 SSD card. I also chose a Samsung EVO. This is a solid state drive, 500 gigs. I forgot to mention this one is a 1 terabyte. There's also a third hard drive that I'm not going to be using it. I'm currently using it, but it's an older model, and that is your HHDs. Those were mechanical hard drives. If they got dropped and a small component cracked on it, your hard drive is useless. Solid state drives came out as a means to not have to worry about that pretty much. So they are newer than your mechanical hard drives. They are stronger than your mechanical hard drives. They are faster than your mechanical hard drives. That's why I'm choosing SSD. 500 gigabytes, this is going to be going towards my music, towards my pictures, my photography, stuff like that. That's what this is going towards. This 1 terabyte SSD that's over here, this is built differently than this one. This one goes directly onto your motherboard. You have to have a motherboard that supports that. So when you notice it says M.2 SSD, when you're looking at motherboards, if it talks about having compatibility for an M.2, you're good to go. Okay? The M.2 has no SATA cable to plug into it. It goes directly into the motherboard, providing a slightly faster speed when it comes to download upload between whatever you're doing with it. You know, if you're just transferring pictures, the SSD M.2 is going to be a lot faster. When it came to productivity, when you're dealing with heavy video editing, heavy video gaming, there were some things where the SATA cable just for some reason performed better. There's a lot of stuff I don't want to get into, a lot of stuff that's overwhelming, confusing. That's not the point of this video. So just know that there are some differences between the two, but when it comes to transferring files, M.2 is going to be faster. I did both, and I'm going to be happy with both, I'm sure of it. Anyways, let's go ahead and open these up. Now, I opened up this box here for Samsung. And this right here is your solid state drive. I have a mechanical hard drive sitting over here. This one, this actually failed me. I'm going to show you a side-by-side comparison. This right here, and the solid state drive. Okay? Holy moly. The size difference in this. This is crazy. When we pull the M.2 out, it's going to be half the size of this box. So this is going to be insane. Not to mention the weight. Oh my gosh, this thing is so light. So light. And the hard drive, the mechanical hard drive, I mean, this is probably 5 pounds, I want to say. It's a 1 terabyte. And it actually crashed on me about 5 months ago. In case anyone's wondering, this is a Seagate Barracuda. This mechanical hard drive, but it served its time. I mean, this probably had about 10 years on it, if not a little bit more. A lot of use out of it. But today's day and age, we go with solid state drives. There's no mechanical components, so if I was to drop this, I run a much lower risk of actually damaging anything compared to the mechanical, which is why a lot of people go with it today. Plus, without mechanics, you don't have as much power that's required to run it, and a faster response time, as I mentioned earlier. Now, if we're going to open this solid state drive, the M.2, we can show a comparison as well. So I don't know if anyone can see, but there's a metallic box in there. Here we are. Oh, okay, that's even a little bit smaller than I thought. So if you notice right there, this is a solid state drive that's 500 megabytes. This right here is a 1 terabyte M.2 solid state drive. This is what directly connects to the motherboard. The foam was holding it in place. It was actually kind of jammed into the foam, but this is a little foam insert right here and there's foam on the back inside this metal case. And this was just sitting there. So this is about the size of, I guess, if you had like a 1 gig RAM card today, it'd probably be the size of this. This is really tiny. But the way this actually goes onto the motherboard is it slides into a little chip, and then you just bend it down a little bit, and there's a screw that goes right here, and you'll just screw down onto the motherboard, and that holds it in place. But this is crazy to me, how technology since 2000, and honestly since yeah, everyone can say since the 90s, we've just gone crazy. Computers go obsolete. You need a new computer every 10 years is what people recommend. But we've had so much advancement, honestly, in the past like 5 to 6 years. So much change that your computer that is from 2015, you need a new one. You need a new one. Like Intel used to do motherboards. Now they don't. When I did my research with Samsung, I was more inclined to buy from them with my 500 gig because I knew I could rely on my pictures and my photography, my music. I could rely on it to be on this and have lower risk chance of losing any of my product, losing any of my data. So I knew it would be safe on there, and I wanted to keep it separate from my M.2 because my operating system is going to be on the M.2. Any software that I download is going to go onto it. Any games that I download are going to go onto it, and so it needed to be bigger, but I also wanted a direct connection without any delay for the fastest download upload possible. The Samsung M.2 was pretty pricey, and I couldn't. But Sabrent had a good price. It was a little bit less. They had a great reputation as far as the reviews, and that's why I chose them. I just didn't feel comfortable going any less in price. I didn't want to go with another product. The reviews weren't quite there. If you're going to get started in this, Samsung is going to be the most reliable brand, especially on Amazon. Sabrent has a good reputation, so your options are there. Next, I want to go over RAM. Okay, now there are a couple different things to think about. You're looking at the DDR, and you're looking at how many gigabytes your RAM can hold. Now, if you're doing Photoshop work, if you're using Adobe Creative Suite, if you're playing heavy with video games, okay, RAM, your amount of space matters with RAM. DDR4 is the new one. DDR3 is what I'm currently using. And that number, again, I'm not going to go crazy with it, but I want you to know the newest ones out there are DDR4. On your graphics cards, you have DDR5. They don't matter between the two of them, okay? If you're looking at a graphics card, the newest ones out there are DDR5. That's great. It runs on its own design. The RAM cards, DDR4 is the newest one. I am going to be using 32 gigabytes for my RAM cards with these Corsair Vengeance. Now, these also have RGB ability. Again, I'm wanting my case to pop in this office. I want people to be able to see it. I want lights to be whatever color I choose. So I'm going with the colored power supply, the colored motherboard, the colored RAM cards. Okay, I even have UV lights, which I'll be showing in a second, which really make certain colors pop. I want it to be consistent. I want it to look good. I want it to be a showpiece. I mean, this is, as much as it is my work computer, it's also a piece of art, and I'm the one who built it. So that is why I chose this RAM. The reputation is there, the color is there, the speed is there, it is the newest version, and the price wasn't bad. 32 gigs for the price I paid, which was around, I want to say 112, 119, something like that. few years ago, trying to buy RAM for 16 gigs was going to be about $140. So I'm very grateful that the price has gone down. You know, and a little side note, this video that I'm doing has been 2 months into the quarantine, the 2020 toilet paper missing time frame. It's been interesting, and I can tell you right now, there has been an impact on the market when it comes to computer parts. So I'm very grateful I was able to get some of these for really good prices. My motherboard, not so much. It was hard to come by, so they raised the price, and it was just bad timing when I bought it. Honestly, a week later, the price dropped when they came in stock on Amazon. I questioned the seller. He was unwilling to negotiate with me, and I really didn't want to wait another 3 weeks for the motherboard. So I ate the money and took that. So anyways, you have right here, this is the RAM card, 2 of them, and each one is running at 16 gigabytes. So these are actually pretty big from what I'm used to seeing, and I guarantee it's because of the lights that are on top. It raised it about 1/4 of an inch. So that's a decent size. I'm fine with it. I think it's great. It's not going to impact anything at all. They feel just as heavy as one without lights, so I'm not too worried about that. It's not cutting in any of the space. I do have a large board. That is the RAM. I have explained my reasoning for it. Now, this is just a little small thing I wanted to show you guys. This is a SATA cable. Now, I mentioned I got 3 SATA cables inside the motherboard package, and they're black. 2 of them are right angles, and 1 of them is not a right angle. And that matters when you're in a case that is limited on size. Right angle SATA cables are lifesavers. The case that I have, it was my very first build, is a Cooler Master Storm. It's a medium-sized tower. And I tell you right now, when you have a large motherboard inside a medium-sized tower, right angle SATA cables are a lifesaver. The tight fitting, I mean, my fingers bled trying to get inside some small spaces there. Cable management is really crucial, and so right angle comes in handy. However, as you can see in this example here, this SATA cable does not have a right angle. It is completely straight. But if you'll notice, it is a neon green color. That is because it is UV reactive. So I went ahead and got it. It was really inexpensive. We're talking single digits. I can't remember the exact company, but it was through Amazon. The cables, you can get them through Amazon. It's not a big deal. I got one because I have 1 SSD card that I will be using. So I just need 1 cable. Now, right here, we have the UV lights I was talking about. Now, this is slightly older. I think this came out in 2016. This company made it. Let me just explain something here. So, the UV lights that used to exist in 2012 timeframe, they were like tubes. I have from my previous builds UV lights on what they used to look like. So these tubes had one major flaw. The glue that held the caps on the ends would deteriorate when in contact with UV light. Go figure. So the 2 ends meant to hold the thing together would fall apart when it was turned on. Now, it's not a right away thing. It was over a couple years. But that was a huge design flaw. And so, although these were cool, slowly people stopped using them because they realized they had to keep replacing them. Now, this company came out with them. They are just LED strips, but they have a UV feature. So they give the same exact reaction, but they're low profile, they're easy to put anywhere in the case, and they plug directly into a port for the power supply similar way as a cooling fan would if the cooling fan was not connecting to the motherboard. Don't want to overwhelm you on that. It's just an extra feature. There's adapters you can buy. If you don't have those adapters laying around, you can order them. They're really inexpensive. It's just a quick way to make sure your lights or your fans are connected to the power supply so they maintain power. That's all there is to it. They will help my SATA cable that I have glow under the light. So I will show that whenever I am installing. We're almost to the big guy, but I wanted to just briefly talk about this. This is not a big deal for everyone, and most users that are using the computer for anything other than streaming, they won't need this. But Elgato, which is probably selling out like crazy over the past 2 months as new streamers have come into existence. These devices are meant to help travel through a computer anything that you plug into it for recording purposes. So I have an Xbox. I have a Nintendo Switch. And Nintendo Switch is actually a better example because I know what Xbox people are going to say. You don't need it. I agree with you. I know about that. But just so you know, a Nintendo Switch cannot hook up to a computer and then go to a TV screen and record it simultaneously. The only way to do that is with a stream record device, okay? And that's what Elgato has here. So this was about 129 bucks, or 110. I think I got mine for 110. You can get it through Walmart, you can get it through Home Depot, you can get it through Elgato's website itself, and Amazon. Amazon right now, I wouldn't buy from there. There's a lot of people that are trying to rip you off, selling it for 2 to 3 times their prices, and that's just not right. It's scalping. I don't agree with it. So this device, you plug your Nintendo with an HDMI cord into it, and then the computer can record and stream whatever it is you're doing, and then you plug an output HDMI cord to your TV, and bada bing bada boom, you've got your TV screen playing your game while you're streaming. So it is a nice feature for people who are on Twitch, for people who are on YouTube, who are going live, or if they're wanting to record what happens and then editing it and playing it later, or uploading it onto YouTube later, things like that. That's what this is for. We've got right here, just so you can see it, it came inside this, the box opened up. Let's see here, it says game capture. Yeah, it shows the instructions right here on the box. So it's actually very to the point. But you've got right here a way to mount it inside the computer. And it just plugs inside one of the PCI ports that I was telling you about, just like the graphics card. And then this right here is the back panel of your computer, and it just fits in. And it looks like it has a smaller plate available. That's handy. So if you are running out of space on your computer and you want to use, let's say there's a sideways PCI port, some computer cases have that. This would fit quite well there. Yeah, and it doesn't take up much space. It's about half the size of the other one. So let's see if you can see it there. Let's see, it comes with an HDMI cord as well. Wow, okay. I'm all for that. Can never get enough HDMI cords these days. Fun fact, I used to work at RadioShack, and I was a manager. And I tell you, Monster products, you got, as an employee there, you got 50% off all Monster products. I can't tell you how many sound cables and how many HDMI cords I bought, fiber optic cables, all that kind of stuff. Because not only do I love computers, before I got into that, I was into sound systems. So I had a 7.1 sound system living in an apartment when I was single, with a 42-inch television, sleeping on a cot. So you could tell where my priorities were as a young bachelor. So, but anyways, that is the Elgato HD 60 Pro. Now, onto my last item. The Thermaltake Core P3 T6 Snow Edition case. As you can see, it is a little bit bigger in its box than what the camera can show. But this case has plexiglass covering the front. All of the sides are exposed. This provides excellent cooling for the PC. There's no way it can get clogged up from being too close to the ground, too close to the wall. It just has airflow all around it. Now, there's a downside to that. A lot of your experts talk about zero pressure inside the PC case. If you have high pressure on outtake and low pressure on intake, you're not going to get dust piling up inside the PC. It's because there's so much pressure that's going one direction that there's not huge airflow sucking in dust. And that's a great method when you're thinking about the type of case. Where are you putting the case? Where is it going to be? Is it going to be where it's visible? Is it going to be hidden? Is it going to be near cats? Is it going to be in a pet friendly zone, no zone, whatever? Things to think about when you're getting that case. You also want to think about, do I want to display what's inside the case or not? So obviously, for this case, I want to show it off. I want it visible. But here's the special thing that was a big seller for me. I can mount this case to a wall. If you've never heard of the Core P3 T6, this is a slightly older model. It's about 2-3 years old. Thermaltake is probably going to be coming out with a new one this year, just my luck. It probably will. I'm going to have to take this box down to be able to get it open so I can show you guys. And I'm afraid when I do open it, it may be in pieces. So let me show you this, because this is on the back side of the box. As you can see right here, it looks like assembly might be required. I don't know yet. I do know it's customizable. I can move a lot of stuff around depending on the type of hard drives I have, depending on the type of cooling fans that I have. There's a lot of options. I can even take my graphics card and turn it from being plugged directly into the motherboard and instead put it vertical and have a wire cable, it's called a riser cable, connects to it and goes to the motherboard for it, so it doesn't have to be connected directly to it. That allows the aura effect that I have on it to be able to light up and be seen. Typically, the downside to most graphics cards is that the colors are all facing down when you plug it into a motherboard sideways. It's been a design flaw, honestly. I think because of all the different companies trying to work together, there's a lot of bad compromises taking place and people can't get along. So let's try to get this sucker opened. I'm actually gonna need a knife for this one. Shout out for my friend who got me this knife about 10 years ago. It is a Smith & Wesson. I have kept it sharp ever since he gave it to me. Alex, if you ever see this, I still got your knife. If I had a box cutter knife, I would recommend that, but that one's out in my garage, and I didn't want to go all the way out there to get it, so I just grabbed the closest knife I have. Again, I'm gonna have to put this on the ground. Good grief. This is a process. Oh my gosh. Okay, we got it. As you can see, some assembly is required. Now, both of my Cooler Master cases that I have, one is a medium size and one is an XL. They came assembled, okay? So don't freak out. If you've never bought a case before, you don't know how it goes, you don't want to have to build it like crazy, there are options out there. So just know I bought this for me because I want the experience. I want to mount it on the wall. I want to customize it to suit my needs. And so I will be going through this process. I'll be showing how to do it in my next video. Taking that off. And just in case you were wondering, my camera angle changed. That may have thrown some people off. That is because two factors. One, this box is so big, I needed to change the angle. Two, the other camera, the memory card got full. So, rookie mistake on my part. And I will be getting a bigger memory card for my future videos. This is the back side. Underneath the cardboard that you can kind of see here, there is plexiglass. And then there are these tubes, these pipes, right here, that go on all four corners and allow the plexiglass to rest on it, and then I can build my PC. So my motherboard is going to go about right here, and then I'm going to have the power supply down here, and then on this side, if you remember my solid state drive, it is the exact size as these slots, and it slides right in and screws into these 4 screws, and it is level with the case itself, allowing me to place cooling fans directly over them. Now if you have liquid cooling, that's actually a really neat feature, and you'll be able to have the liquid cooling devices and the fans on top of this, the radiator and the fans right here, over that, keeping them cool while also cooling the radiator, which supplies the liquid to the processor chip and to the graphics card, which will be around right here. What else we got here? Oh, that's the, in case you were wondering, the cable I was talking about, the riser cable. This is it right here. So it's inside a static free bag, but it is a cable. That's really neat. So I'm really excited about this. I can't wait to put it together, and I really can't wait to show you guys the process, because that was the most overwhelming part to me. The process with building a computer, when I first saw it, it was just, there was a lot of pressure, a lot of unsureness that built up inside me, but once I started doing it, once I saw how it works, it just came together like that. And I want to be able to share that experience with you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and if you've got any questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. If you've watched this video today and you have some recommendations on some better products, better quality, or there's compatibility issues that I may not have caught that you know about from experience, please share it in the comments below. I want to make sure my audience is educated, and I want to make sure I'm educated as well. I want to do my due diligence to do the best I can to make it as simple, as easy, as comfortable, and as accurate as possible. So again, I'm not an expert, I'm just an enthusiast. I love what I do, and I want to be able to share that passion with others.